Most people don't fail at budgeting because they're bad with math. They fail because nobody ever taught them how money actually behaves when you're living paycheck to paycheck, trying to build something from almost nothing. And so they download a budgeting app, they set up a spreadsheet, and they promise themselves this time will be different. And then 3 weeks later, life happens. An unexpected bill, a birthday dinner they didn't plan for, a rough week that ends with an online order they didn't need. And just like that, the budget falls apart again. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know it's not a discipline problem, it's a design problem. The system most people are using was never built for the way real life works. It was built for a textbook version of life, predictable, controlled, neat. But your life isn't a textbook, and your budget shouldn't be either. What I'm going to walk you through today is a budgeting system that actually fits around human behavior, not the other way around. It's not flashy, it doesn't require an expensive app or a finance degree, but it works because it's built on understanding why people fail first and then solving for that. Let's start with something most budgeting advice completely ignores. The way you feel about money changes depending on where it is. Psychologists call this mental accounting, and it explains a lot of behavior that looks irrational on the surface. When you have one big pile of money sitting in a single checking account, your brain doesn't naturally separate it into categories. It just sees a number, and that number, whatever it is, feels like it's all available to spend, so you spend it. Not recklessly, just casually. A coffee here, a dinner out there, a subscription you forgot about, a small purchase that felt justified in the moment. And by the end of the month, you're not sure where it went, but you know it's gone. This is the core flaw in traditional budgeting. It tries to solve a psychological problem with a logical solution. It tells you to track every dollar mentally or on a spreadsheet, while all your money sits in one place sending your brain the same message: spend me. And most people, no matter how motivated they start, can't override that signal forever. Willpower runs out, life gets busy, the budget gets abandoned. The system I want to introduce you to doesn't fight that psychology, it works with it. It's built on one foundational idea. Money you can't see feels like money you don't have, and money you don't feel like you have, you don't spend. Here's how it works. Instead of tracking every expense and hoping for the best, you divide your money the moment it arrives, before you have a chance to think about it, into 3 separate accounts. Not categories in a spreadsheet, actual separate accounts, 3 buckets, each one with a specific job, and you automate the whole thing so it happens without you having to make a decision every month. The first account is your fixed expenses account. This is where your rent, your utilities, your insurance, your subscriptions, anything that costs the same amount every month gets paid from. The moment your paycheck hits, a fixed amount transfers here automatically. You calculate this once, you set it up once, and then you forget about it. This money is spoken for. It's not yours to touch. The second account is your freedom account. This is your spending money. Groceries, dining out, entertainment, clothing, personal care, the day-to-day texture of your life lives here. This is the account you actually use, the one your debit card is connected to. Whatever's in here, you can spend. No guilt, no tracking, no second guessing. When it's gone for the month. That's the rule. But while it's there, it's truly yours to use however you want. The third account is your future account. This one is the most important and the most misunderstood. It's not just a savings account. It's the account you never see. You don't get a debit card for it. You don't move money out of it without a plan. The moment your paycheck arrives, a percentage transfers here. Before you budget anything else, before you pay a bill, before you even look at what you have. This money disappears first. And because it disappears first, you stop missing it after a couple of months. Most people try to save what's left over at the end of the month. There's almost never anything left over. That's why this system works differently. It saves first and lives on the rest. The percentages you assign to each account don't have to be perfect right away. You're not trying to build the ideal budget on day one. You're trying to build a system that holds. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. A budget that's slightly imperfect, but that you actually stick to, will always outperform a perfectly optimized budget that you abandon in week 3. So when you're setting your percentages for the first time, Aim for honest, not ideal. Look at what you've actually been spending, not what you wish you'd been spending, and build from there. A reasonable starting point for most people in their 20s and early 30s earning a stable income looks something like this. Around 50 to 55% of your take-home pay flows into the fixed expenses account. Roughly 30 to 35% lands in the freedom account, and somewhere between 10 and 15% moves immediately into the future account. If 10% feels impossible right now, start with 5. The habit matters more than the amount in the beginning. You can increase the percentage every few months as your income grows or your expenses shrink, but the habit of moving money before you see it, that needs to start now. The reason this system works where others don't comes back to psychology, not math. When your freedom account has $400 in it and you know that's your spending money for the month, your brain recalibrates. You stop making dozens of small, unconscious decisions every week. Instead, you make one decision at the start of the month, how much goes into each bucket, and then you live inside those boundaries naturally. There's no spreadsheet to update, no app to log every coffee into. The structure does the thinking for you. There's also something quietly powerful about having a freedom account that has real permission attached to it. Most budgeting systems create guilt around spending. You're constantly checking whether a purchase fits the plan, whether you've already gone over in a category, whether you're being responsible enough. That guilt is exhausting, and eventually people rebel against it. They throw the whole system out just to get some relief. The freedom account removes that guilt because every dollar in there is already pre-approved. You've already decided it's for living, so when you spend it, you're not failing your budget, you're using it exactly the way it was designed. Now, there's one part of the system that trips people up in the beginning, and it's worth addressing directly. Variable expenses. Things like car repairs, medical bills, irregular subscriptions, gifts, travel. The costs that don't show up every month but always seem to show up at the worst time. These are the expenses that quietly destroy most budgets, not because they're too large, but because they're invisible until they arrive. The fix is simple, but it requires one extra step. Think back over the last 12 months and make a rough list of every non-monthly expense you had. Annual subscriptions, holiday gifts, a car service, a dentist visit, a trip. Add those numbers up, divide by 12, and that monthly average becomes a small transfer you add to your future account from the very beginning. You're essentially paying your future self in advance, so when those costs arrive, you already have the money. They stop being emergencies and start being planned events. This is the part of personal finance that almost nobody talks about, but it's the difference between a household that always feels financially fragile and one that feels stable. The expenses don't change, the preparation does. Once the 3-account system is running, even imperfectly, something else begins to shift that's harder to explain but very real. You start to feel differently about money, not just smarter about it, calmer. Because the anxiety that most people carry around money isn't really about the money itself, it's about uncertainty. It's the not knowing whether you'll be okay, whether something will come up you can't handle, whether you're falling behind without even realizing it. The 3-account system doesn't make you rich overnight, but it removes that uncertainty week by week. You always know what you have to spend. You always know your bills are covered. You always know something is being set aside for the future. And that knowledge, that quiet confidence, changes how you make decisions in ways that compound over time. People who feel financially stable spend differently than people who feel financially anxious. They make fewer impulsive purchases trying to fill an emotional gap. They're less likely to go into debt for things they don't need. They're more patient, more strategic, more capable of saying no to something small today so they can say yes to something meaningful later. The system creates the stability, and the stability creates better behavior, and better behavior slowly builds real wealth. Not because you became a different person, because you built a structure that brought out a better version of the person you already were. That's what a good budgeting system actually does. It doesn't restrict your life. It funds it, deliberately, quietly, and on your terms. Start this week. Open a 2nd and 3rd account if you don't have them already. Sit down for 30 minutes, be honest with your numbers, and set your percentages. Automate the transfers for the day after your paycheck arrives, and then let the system do what systems do best. run in the background so you don't have to. Your future self won't remember the 30 minutes it took to set this up, but they'll feel the difference every single month.